Hello, it's Laura here with a magnetic reveal slider Halloween card tutorial for you today. As you can see, when we pull on the slider panel, the cute witch flies downwards on her broom and the sentiment is revealed. The thin magnets behind her allow this fun surprise. Okay, let's dive right in and get to work. I've already stamped the image from the Yuzu Best Witches set, and here I'm covering it with a mask so that I can add the broom. You can totally stamp the two elements separately and die cut them with the matching dies, but I wanted to add a fun touch and create a wonky broom. This card is big, but it still fits inside of a slimline envelope, so don't worry. The main panel measures 3 5/8 by 9 inches, and I've already cut a notch in it with a 1-inch hole punch. I'm going to use 4 colors of distress inks to blend a really dark background that fades into black. If you don't feel like working so much, just choose a dark cardstock instead. Once the ink blending is done, I like to add some distress glaze to protect it. I just dip my finger into the jar covered with a clean cloth, well, this is actually a piece of an old t-shirt, and carefully rub it all over. Next, we need to do some ink blending on the slider panel so that we can camouflage the sentiment a little bit. When you're creating a slimline slider card, it's always a good idea to make the slider panel really sturdy by adding at least another layer of cardstock. I love peeling off the tape to see the crisp line between the white and the ink blended part. Off camera, I also added distress glaze to it. We only have room for 1/4-inch wide strips of foam tape, and since it's easier to cut strips of cardstock than foam tape, I'm making my own dimensional adhesive. I stacked 3 layers with liquid glue, but if your slider panel is a single layer, then you can just use 2 of each strip. All of these measurements will be in the description box below, so you don't need to write them down. And before adding score tape, I'm coloring the edges with a black marker. Now I can add my 1/4-inch score tape to both sides, but you could also just attach these to the back of your panel with liquid glue. Here I'm showing you where those strips will go, but before adhering them we need to die cut our sentiment. And if you're not planning on using magnets like I did, you'll also need to cut a channel or groove for the witch to move along. If you have thin double-sided adhesive, add it to the back of the cardstock before doing the die cutting and you'll save a lot of time. The "hey ghoul" just cracks me up. Don't lose any of the inside pieces because we will need them later. The die-cut white edges would be super visible against the black, so grab that marker again and color them. You need to do the same with the tiny inside pieces of the letters. Now we can adhere a piece of acetate behind the die-cut word, and just in case, I like to add some tape to the upper and lower edges. If we insert the die-cut letters and word in their places, it's easier to inlay the inside pieces. I used liquid glue for that, and here I'm lifting the letters with a needle. Off camera, I already added a strip of the homemade dimensional tape, but then I decided that it would be better to add a little piece of cellophane plastic so that we can't pull that slider panel too far. I made it slightly narrower than the slider panel, about 2 3/4 by 3 1/4. So slide the panel into its final position and add the cellophane. You can trim the excess later on. My horizontal strip of dimensional tape was just a smidge too wide, so I trimmed a piece with my craft knife, and now I can adhere it in its place. Let's try it out before we finish the assembly. Okay, this looks good. Here I'm figuring out where to adhere the witch. It slides about 2.5 inches, so that's my reference. I forgot to turn on my camera before attaching the magnetic snaps to the back of the witch and slider panel, so I made a little mock-up to show you what I did. The magnetic snaps by Basic Grey have a positive and a negative pole, which of course go together. They also have adhesive, so I just peeled off 2 positive snaps and adhered them to the back of my witch. Then I temporarily adhered the witch in her starting position with some washi tape and flipped the panel. I lifted the slider panel up on its cellophane hinge and let the negative magnetic parts snap into their places. Then I just peeled the backing off the stickers and carefully lowered the slider panel on top of the magnets. Like so. I decorated the card with enamel stars, but before I go, I just wanted to mention that if they don't have a strong enough adhesive, they might not stick to the slightly waxy coat of the distress glaze, so you might need to use some glossy accents or a similar strong glue. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's card. If you have any questions or comments, just type them below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Have a great day. Bye bye.